when Melba starts playing, I'll get on the mic. I want to thank you all for coming out. It's so nice to be here. I have a lot of friends here from my performance of prayer class, so I thought I'd start with a prayer so they can say they'll enjoy it. Maybe. I don't know. So this is a prayer for inspiration, and the way it works, I want you to repeat after me every line I say, all right? Is everybody ready? All right. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Inspiration.
Inspiration.
For sometimes being one of those people
For sometimes being one of those people
who takes more than they give.
who takes more than they give.
Like at a potluck.
Like at a potluck.
When everybody has a casserole,
When everybody has a casserole.
and I bring plastic forks.
And I bring plastic forks.
To make up for it,
To make up for it.
this week I promise
This week I promise
to feed the birds,
to feed the birds.
or to wink at a stranger,
Or to wink at a stranger.
or to stick my tongue out at children.
Or to speak my tongue out at children.
This week I promise
This week I promise
to call a strange friend,
to call a strange friend.
or to tell someone
Or to tell someone
who totally doesn't expect it,
who totally doesn't expect it.
someone who's mad at me,
Someone who's mad at me.
someone who hates me,
Someone who hates me.
that I love him
That I love him.
or her,
Or her.
or to offer to say grace,
Or to offer to say grace.
and to make it a good grace,
And to make it a good grace.
even when I have no business saying grace,
Even when I have no business saying grace.
just to hear the people
Just to hear the people
who inspire me
who inspire me.
say
Say
amen.
amen.
Unfortunate pause. I'll take responsibility for that. Cool. So I got to introduce Melba. I think a lot of reasons I'm here because Melba read the book in this bookstore, read like 50% of the book in this bookstore, and then was like, we got to do something, let's do it. And the wonderful, infectious energy was like, well, how could we stop Melba? Nobody could. And then Melba happened to mention, so our reading's like getting planned and we're figuring out dates or whatever, and then Melba throws in this email chain. She's like, oh, when I play tenor saxophone, we're going to use a tenor saxophone. And then the Malvern folks were like, we can't do without the tenor saxophone. Like, we've never had that. Let's have that happen. So now Melba's going to play tenor saxophone and I'm going to read, and we don't know what's going to happen. Except that when I was a young man, I became unreasonably obsessed with Jack Kerouac, as many young men unfortunately do. I was just so obsessed. I read On the Road every year, and I tried to slouch. Like really in high school, I spent a lot of high school practicing slouching the appropriate way, so I would seem more like a beatnik. But it was lost in San Antonio, like nobody even knew what a beatnik was. It was like, I don't know what's happening. But there's a great Jack Kerouac album where he plays, I think it's Zoot Sims plays with him, and he does these haikus, very hip, very hip. So we're gonna try and be that hip tonight, I hope. We'll do the best we can. So this is my friend Melba. We've known each other for forever, right? Yeah. All right. We don't know what's gonna happen, and you're gonna be all right. I should also thank my good friends at Malvern. For the longest time, before Malvern existed, I was a commissioned sales rep and traveled around Texas and Oklahoma representing presses to bookstores. And my affection, I was quite a book person, but my affection for booksellers grew exponentially. It's such a, experimental theater in Austin is a strange and a ridiculous fight. I think being a bookseller in America is a strange, ridiculous fight. So, and it's basically what keeps me alive. So we're going to try this. Here we go. All right, we're doing this one. One start. All right. No one knows what's going to happen. If anything terrible happens, just run. There's the exit sign right there. Run as fast as you can. Knock people down. Knock them out of the way. I'm going to read on mic because the saxophone is incredibly loud. This is, I'm not going to explain too much. I'll explain a little bit later when we spoil the ending of the book for you, but this is chapter 42. It's called Tanya is Becoming Grateful. What are my options? I don't have any skills, so I can't get a job. I wouldn't last a month if I struck out on my own. I already know that. No one in my family will even take my calls anymore. I think I called
one too many times. If I walk into one of those agencies for homeless girls, I could probably get a shower and clean clothes, but then what? I can get a shower and clean clothes here. What's the next step after that? The distance between where I am now and anything remotely normal seems almost infinite. And I'm scared, that's the real truth. If I walk out that door, I won't make it a half block before I get hit by a brick from behind and wake up with Malcolm on my back, holding me down by the neck, asking me just what I think I'm doing. I can imagine that happening in the middle of the night. And I can imagine that happening in broad daylight with witnesses coming out of their houses everywhere to watch. Oh, baby. Here's a weird idea. How long would it take us to live our lives if we could keep jumping back to any previous point and start over from there? It would take forever, right? If I had been nicer to Mike Heroic in middle school, would I have a family now? If I had told my parents the truth about my grades in junior college, is there any way they could have helped? For some reason, it seems so much easier to make the right choices in the past than it does in the present. Right now, I can't imagine how I'm going to get out of this. It seems like the only way to escape a bunch of freaks is to become normal. I don't know how to get there, but I feel like I'm starting to want normal things. I look at an alarm clock, and it seems like a poem about desire. There are people that want to get up at a certain hour so they can go get something. A couple pins next to the phone almost broke my heart the other day. Who's calling? What do they have to say that's so important I have to write it down? And I can't even look at all the picture frames. I turned them all over in the master bedroom. This family's been everywhere. They're out there right now snapping new ones. I can feel it. Like somebody's pinching my stupid sentimental heart. I want a family, but I don't want babies. I am a baby. I can't feed or clothe myself, much less take care of anyone else. Everything I need to survive I have to steal from whatever kind of mother or father is around at the moment. Food stamps, Salvation Army, the houses we squat in. I think every house we break into is another womb, and my bad behavior is a kind of umbilical cord connecting me to my substance. If I start acting right and obeying the laws, I'll be cut off from everything I know how to do, from the only way I know how to get by. That's how you get born into adulthood. You just jump out into it, kicking and screaming and crying. Only you're not naked. You're wearing a shitty, sweaty polyester fiber Arby's uniform. I'd rather wear dirty jeans and an old t-shirt so thin you can see through it, and 3 or 4 flannels up on top of that, on top of that I can pull up over my head and block out all the terrible stares I get because of how bad I smell. I'll have to wear some kind of uniform someday. If it's not an Arby's uniform, it'll be one of those dull, bright orange jumpsuits from prison. If I could jump back to junior college, still living off my original mom and dad instead of collecting shitty pop albums, it takes longer to figure out what they're screaming about than it did for them to write the lyrics. I would make fashion my main goal. I would make a line of clothing made up entirely out of the fabric they used to make those prison jumpsuits. I really mean dull, bright orange. It's kind of a miracle they figured out how to make a color like that and make it so drab. But you can imagine a line of clothes made out of that stuff. Business slacks, and button-down shirts, and little knee-length skirts that all proclaim, I'm a wage slave. Not only would it be cool to see, but when the prisoners broke out of jail, they could just blend right in. It's probably not a original idea. Somebody probably already did it, and the government shut everything down because they didn't want to have to redesign their prison wear. All joking aside, there is seriously somebody whose job it is to design prison wear. That's a shitty job. I don't know what he or she tells himself to get through the day, but it's probably a pretty weak line of bullshit. I'm only doing this to help those less fortunate than me have more comfortable lives. This will lead to something better. At least I'm on this side of the job. It's the same line of bullshit I keep telling myself. I keep thinking I'll find a way to turn this pack of idiots into a family. I keep telling myself that I'm helping out the misfits like Ankiel and Susan, that I'm protecting them from Malcolm, but I need Malcolm. Without Malcolm, I would have just drifted from the artist studios into the Salvation Army, into some kind of program, into some kind of addiction, into some kind of serious crime, into jail. I guess that's what this is, just part of my downward slide. And I don't see it anyway. I keep thinking that this can be saved somehow, that we don't have to keep banging out beers and squatting in other people's houses. I know that in like the 60s, hippies would turn abandoned factories and shit into apartments and put in plumbing and electricity. The way they did it through this process of stealing a building and learning how to make it work and keeping the government at bay and fighting off other squatters who came late to the project. These hippies grew up without ever having to put on an Arby's costume. They were our parents in some cases. We could turn into those kind of hippies if we had Malcolm's leadership abilities, but didn't have all the dumb leadership ideas that come out of his mouth. If I could jump back to my last day at home and just keep my mouth shut when my mom started laying into me about how stupid I am, she's right. I am that stupid. I've had all these opportunities and I burned them down. If I could just keep my mouth shut about my mom's deluge of emotions, I bet there's like a tearful hugging session at the end, or even a stony silence for a few days followed by a long thaw. If I could get back just that far, that I could re-enroll in junior college and then medical school, every step along the way I'll ask my mom, is it too late? And every time she'll say, no, baby, it's not too late for you. And in medical school, I'll take just enough classes to learn how you can anesthetize someone and cut out his vocal cords so he can never talk again. Then I'll jump back to this point in time and do it to Malcolm. And then I'll tell everyone that I'm the only one who knows what Malcolm wants and that now I speak for him. I'm surprised in the whole history of this weird world, this has never become a thing. Cutting out people's vocal cords. I think people's voices are the most annoying things about people. Listen. Really listen to whoever is reading this to you, even if it's me. The grunts and wet little corners of the sound, the verbal tics. Language is disgusting. It's the root of all our problems. I think eventually we'll get rid of it. Maybe we just haven't gotten there yet. There's 7 billion people on the planet now. The noise is just going to get worse and worse. Maybe when there's 12 billion, we'll have to start silencing babies at birth. Then I'll be famous for thinking it up. A bunch of silent people standing in line at Arby's, pointing at the picture of the roast beef sandwich they want. A silent person in a dull, bright orange Arby's uniform nodding quietly. Only rich people will be allowed to keep their voices. And if somehow you're able to be nice to your Mike Chronic and let your mother do the best she can with you and to stay away from your Malcolm, if somehow you're able to do all that and get through junior college and med school without getting distracted by all your weird ideas, none of which make you an artist, you'll learn that too. And somehow you manage to get as rich as a doctor, then there'll be a surgery to restore your vocal cords. Then at the age of 27 or however old you are, you'll be able to speak for the first time. What do you think he'd say? I know what I would say if I could have all that. I wouldn't curse the system or speak up about injustice. Fuck all that. I'd say, thank you.
How was our saxophone to novel ratio when Melba was playing? Was it okay? Is that all right?
Did you understand it?
More novel? All right, I'll do my best. I'll see what I can do. We only have one more. We're gonna do one more section of sax and novel. In middle school, we had this concert. The first time I French kissed a girl at a Halloween party. Oh my God, it was so magical. She was from another middle school, and then she stopped returning my phone calls. But I had the saxophone solo, and we were playing Wham's "Careless Whisper," and I had more emotion in that saxophone solo. It's the most beautiful moment of art on earth, as far as I'm concerned. And you just have to imagine it. I can't even make it happen again. Think about that for a second. And you should be ashamed of that kind of emotion.
I actually loved the sound.
Of making out
Yeah.
with middle school girls?
No,
Yes, me
the
too.
sound of the sax and the novel. It created like, a world. And I really
Let's do it again.
I got lost in it.
All right. I'm not going to explain anything. You don't. These are other characters. This is chapter 52. Angel and Craig get married. If you decide to stay with me, we'll have a big family. We'll move out to the country. We'll live off the land. We'll grow corn all around the house in every direction to make a green wall. We'll keep goats that we'll train to eat only weeds in among the corn.
Old farmers will laugh and tell us it's not possible till they see the way we train them. When a goat kid bends its neck for a weed, we'll pet it. But if it opens its mouth for an early stalk of corn, we'll slap it in the face. We'll take the time to make the kids learn. We'll perfect nature. We'll keep bees without a mask. When the mailman comes, he'll cry to see us standing there in a cloud of bees, perfectly understood by our insects, unstung, a honeycomb in each hand, offering him the opportunity to join us, offering him a handful of gold, if he can only get over his fears and reach out. Honeycomb and a cup of black coffee in the morning. We get a lot of mail because people will write to us for advice. That's what I want to do for a living. I want to give advice. Big picture or little details. I want to be the person people come to. How should I live? In perfect nature. What should I eat? Raw meat and vegetables, honey, coffee. Cigarettes are good for you because tobacco is native to this place. Put money in the next envelope you send me if you like my advice. Does he love me? Does he make you come? It only takes time and attention. If you love something, make it come. I love coffee. I pour the cream in real slow to watch it swirl. I let the honey drip down into it from a mile above. If I have a whiskey, I put a finger in to warm the coffee up. I expect the same from a man. And you can expect the same from me towards you if you decide to stay. What time should I wake up? As often as you can. Your mind should want to be awake. If you have a dream, you should wake up right away and write it down and send it to us to read. That'll be our only TV. Reading America's dreams to each other. You can read everything from east of the Mississippi and I'll take the west. If you decide to stay with me, those will be our subjects. We'll teach our children to read from these dream letters. We'll teach them spelling and psychology and geography. Imagine raising children on nothing but letters. Imagine raising children on nothing but letting them play outdoors and reading to them from a great big compendium of dreams. If those were the only two sources of input they were allowed, running around and listening to mom and dad read dreams, perfect nature. And we'll have lots of children. We'll have 7 children. We'll have 3 girls and 3 boys and 1 that's just wild. We'll set it loose the day it's born. We'll put out food at night on the back porch. We'll lie awake in bed at night and listen to it while we eat, holding each other proud, frightened. The 7th child will be our test of our faith in perfect nature. At any moment it could break into the house and kill us, eat the children, fuck me to death while it fights you back from saving me, but that won't happen. We'll trust in perfect nature, and the 7th child will be kind to us and the goats. We'll tell the rest of the brothers and sisters, you have another sibling out there somewhere, running wild but close enough to keep an eye on you. And we'll say, your father and I believe, if you decide to stay with me, that this other sibling, in perfect nature, if you ever get in real danger, come with me. We'll break down the door to save you. That's why I spent all this time training you, breaking you, preparing you to make this decision, so that when you decide to stay with me, it can be perfect nature, and we can come together forever. Amen.
It turns out Angel's not a reasonable person. I don't know how you feel about that. Maybe that's perfect for you. Now, Melba and I are going to read a section together. You need to know this. What do you need to know? This is going to spoil the entire book for you in some ways.
Well, and also, I want to say, I rarely have picked up a book in the bookstore. I mean, you know, I normally just get the book and take it home. This is the first book in a long, long time that I stood over there for like 3.5 hours because I couldn't put it down.
And they were like, are you going to buy it or are you going to steal it?
What I wanted was like, I was really, because I know Kurt, I was really shocked and moved and scared because of the people he created, the culture. I think it's a statement about social structure, and I felt like Where did he get this? Because, these people came to life for me.
So what do you need to know? So at the center of the story, you haven't heard their voices yet, but there's two brothers. There's an older brother named Bobbert, and he has a little brother named Timmy. And this nickname Bobbert he hates. Everybody calls him Bobbert instead of Robert. And so they fall in with this group of kids who are squatting in houses, and some of them, and they're playing this weird game or not game about some of them being werewolves or not werewolves. And toward the end of the novel, they all run away, and there comes this moment where Bobbert, they think they're finding, I'm trying not to give too much away. They end up at this house, and instead of the house being anything dangerous or crazy or whatever, there's a tiny little old lady in the house. And she welcomes them in, and she makes them a dinner. And of course, eventually things go awry. And the lady has called her local sheriff and asked him to come. And when the sheriff shows up, again, there's a little jump in time and you get a surprise. The sheriff shows up and there's blood everywhere and there's been a huge disaster, something's happened. And the sheriff they'll be talking about another guy named Detective Raphael. And the sheriff called in this detective who's been looking for these kids. And so when they talk about him, that's the relationship. So the sheriff and the little old lady know each other because they're way out in the country. And Detective Raphael's a stranger. And the two brothers mentioned are those little brothers who are trying to sort of escape out into the wilderness. And this is a conversation, all the chapters tell you who's speaking. So this is chapter 85. The old lady tells Sheriff Hanson what happened. What happened in here?
I'm all right.
You're hurt. Don't move. Stay there.
I'm all right, John. It's not my blood.
Is he still in the house?
Put away your gun. The young man's gone.
There were two boys.
I know that. I'm the one that called you, John. I wish I hadn't, but I did.
So you think they're both gone?
Yes, that's what I think.
Where's Detective Raphael?
The detectives locked up in my front closet.
What happened in here?
They had a fight.
I'll say. Every last fucking thing in your house is broken or covered in blood, Ellie.
Don't open that door.
I thought you said the detective was in there.
I did. But I think the young man may have rigged it so that if you open the door, the shotgun goes off and the detective's head gets blown off.
What shotgun?
Well, the young man must have overheard me telling the detectives about Justin's shotgun.
Well, there's plenty of evidence. Handprints on the door, pretty small. How old is this kid?
You'll have to ask the detective. He knew who they were.
EMS is on the way. Can you hear me, Detective? EMS is on the way. Don't worry, we'll get you out of there.
I don't know that he's conscious.
Oh, Jesus, Ellie, how bad is he hurt?
He'll be all right. He's bleeding, but he hasn't been shot or stabbed or anything. The young man just gave him an old-fashioned beating.
What for?
I guess the young man didn't like the detective's tone of voice, John.
So he flipped over the dining room table and broke your dishes?
Well, the detective was condescending.
What's that?
He was talking down to the young man.
Kind of like the way you're talking to me, Ellie?
You were supposed to come, John, not some impolite detective.
He said he knew these boys. He talked big about how he knew how to handle them. And he sure did treat me like shit for letting the whole tent city get away 3 weeks ago.
Well, now he's cuffed to the rod in my closet.
I could kick the door down.
I think that would set the shotgun off.
How has he got it rigged?
I have no idea, John.
What happened?
Okay. We were sitting here. The detective had already arrested the little one and taken him out to his car behind the barn.
We should go get him.
No, let me finish. The young men are gone. If you let me finish, you know that.
You want me to go get you a warm rag or anything to wipe the blood off you?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Where are your towels?
I don't know where the kitchen rag is. You'll have to get a towel from the bathroom upstairs.
Go on, I'm listening.
Okay. We were waiting for the older one to come home, and he did. He didn't knock on the door or make any kind of announcement. The young man simply walked in and went straight up to the detective, and the young man knew what was going on. Oh yeah, the detective started talking, and the young man just stuck his hands out in front of him about waist high. He put his hands in fists as to say, "Shut up and put the handcuffs on me." The young man didn't look right. But then I don't know what young men look like when they're being arrested.
Here you go, Ellie.
Not the good yellow towels, John. Although I'm glad to see that they're still clean. There should be a gray towel over there on the back of the door.
There's blood on the lampshade, too. It must have been a hell of a beating.
The detective cuffed one of the young man's wrists, and then it happened so fast. That was what the young man was waiting for. As soon as the cuff was on his wrist, the young man started swinging that hand around, using the cuff as a whip. He drew blood immediately. He hit the detective in the face, maybe the eyes, around the eyes. He drew blood, and the detective couldn't see what was coming, and I don't know that it really mattered, but the young man wasn't fighting the detective. He was attacking, screaming, flailing, biting, smashing, everything. At one point, the young man picked up the detective by the neck and threw him. He was so angry he didn't know what was possible and what was not. He whipped the detective to ribbons with his own handcuffs. When the detective covered his face, the boy kicked him in the stomach. When the detective protected his body, the boy hit him in the face.
What did you do?
Everything I just described happened in 5 seconds. I stood there.
The boy didn't attack you,
No, he never lifted a hand to me.
but you're covered in blood.
It was a hell of a
The
beating.
kid picked him up by the neck?
He went white.
All right, Ellie.
Don't open the door.
I don't think a wild child is going to rig up a shotgun track. I think you're lying to me, Ellie. I could be wrong, but I'm going to risk it.
I wish you wouldn't.
Jesus, Ellie.
I told you the young man beat him to ribbons, but he'll live.
How do you know?
Trust me, I've seen worse.
And you watched this happen?
To tell you the truth, John, I rooted for it.
And then you stalled for time. You waited till this detective was bleeding like this. You waited for me to finally get bored out in the road and come wandering in to find out what was going on.
Oh, I did more than wait.
You probably spent a good hour making up what you were going to tell me.
Everything I told you about the young man was true.
Except for using a shotgun to booby-trap the closet. You probably gave it to the boy as a parting gift.
I did.
You know, I am called on to do some detective work of my own from time to time, Ellie.
I know that.
Don't treat me like a complete idiot.
I'm sorry. Everything I told you about the attack was true.
And then after the boy left, you dragged the detective to this closet? That's how you got so bloody?
You can believe whatever you want, John.
What I believe, Ellie, is that the handprint on the door is too small to pick this detective up by the neck. I believe the boy beat up the detective, and then you dragged the detective into the closet and hung him up by the wrist with his own cuffs to the closet rod.
You can believe whatever you want.
Jesus, Ellie, Jesus. That's your kitchen rag in his mouth.
I want the young men to be free.
Then why did you call me in the first place?
I called you, not this asshole.
All right, where are the keys?
The young man took them to set his brother free.
All right, I'm gonna pull the rod out and let him down, then I'm gonna take the dish towel out of his mouth, and I want you to use it to smear your handprints off the other side of this door.
All right, John.
Jesus, Ellie, you're one step away from living the rest of your life in jail. You know that? It's a good thing it's me standing here before you.
Well, that's why I called you.
Thank you. Do the young men get away? Do any young men get away? Young men get away with it. All right, I'm going to finish with one last prayer. We'll take a few questions, and we'll eat all the cookies, and then we'll be done. We apparently can't leave until we eat all the cookies. This is a prayer I call my simple prayer. It's the same thing I want you to repeat after me. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you.
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
I'm angry.
I'm angry.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Come back here.
Come back here.
Please.
Please.
My greatest current sin
My greatest current sin
is knowing what to say,
is knowing what to say,
but saying nothing.
but saying nothing,
Because it's easier
because it's easier
to make the mistake
to make the mistake
of thinking it's easier
of thinking it's easier
to speak up another time.
to speak up another time.
It's never easier than now.
It's never easier than now.
It's never another time than now.
It's never another time than now.
So help me speak to you
So help me speak to you
by speaking to me
by speaking to me
with those simple phrases
with those simple phrases
we all know.
we all know.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I love you.
I love you.
Excuse me.
Excuse me.
I'm angry.
I'm angry.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Come back here.
Come back here.
Please.
Please.
Amen.
Amen.
Cool. Thanks, guys.